everybody. It's time for Coffee with Scott Adams. Get your coffee. We're starting a little early today. Keep me guessing. Probably be a small crowd today. I'm guessing. We got a lot to talk about. If I can make my camera work. Oh, there we go. Good morning, good morning. Grab your coffee. I know it's a little bit earlier than usual, but just didn't feel like sleeping last night. It was about 3 a.m. and it was, hey Josh, 3 a.m. is all the sleep I need. 3 hours, I'm good. You went to the gym thanks to my book. Good. I'm happy about that. Now sleep is overrated. I tried to sleep. I got to sleep around midnight, but about 3:30 or so, I just thought to myself, that's all I really need. Some of you think you just gotta sleep all night. I don't know what's wrong with you people. What's my workout routine? I usually work out at noon, but on some days, a little later in the day, depending on what's going on. The Skittles thing. Oh no, you know what we're talking about. I'm sure you know why I'm here. Have you seen my Twitter feed? Did you see what CNN did? How could you talk about anything else this morning? Looks like I'll have to call it up on my computer and show you. Well, let me show it to you on my computer. All right, this is a screenshot. And notice at the bottom where CNN put their own summary, it says, Trump says, quote, racial profiling will stop terror. Now look at the actual quote word for word on the same page. You don't see the word racial. He says profiling, profile, but he doesn't say racial. And do you know why he didn't say racial? Because he wasn't thinking racial. He was thinking country of origin, he was thinking probably religion, he was thinking gender, I'm sure. You know, men are more dangerous than women, just in terms of statistically true. So, first of all, he didn't say racial, and there are other things he more reasonably could have meant. You know, country, religion, what's your, you know, how crazy are you about your religion, and that sort of thing. So, imagine seeing this on TV. They literally not only added a word, but it's the word that will get somebody like me fucking killed. All right. So this is a sort of journalistic change, which makes it dangerous for me personally, because people associate me with Trump. So I got more retweets on this than anything I've ever done. I think we're around 5,000 retweets or something, and I think jaws are just dropping. Because, by the way, you haven't heard CNN apologize, right? And if you're thinking, and I know you probably are thinking, that maybe this is just the producer who does the thing called the crawl, I think, or the chyron, the little words at the bottom, you're probably thinking, well, that person just made a mistake. But I was watching this when Erin Burnett was on, and she said racial profiling over and over again, to the point where it was obvious that they'd been coached. It was obvious she'd been coached, that they were going to actually add this word and change the meaning to something horrible. Now, here's the other evil thing about this. We're already doing racial profiling. Just because we don't call it that doesn't mean it's not happening. Do you think that immigration is not already doing racial profiling? Do you think that's not a thing? You don't think they consider everything from and not just that one thing, but don't you think they're considering everything from race to religion to country of origin to your history, your family, your gender, your age? Don't you think they're profiling on all of that already? Of course they are. But as soon as you as you put that word racial in front of profiling, and then you attribute it incorrectly to Donald Trump, you're basically asking people to fucking assassinate him, right? Now, if you thought that his comments about, hey, Hillary Clinton's Secret Service should put their guns away, that was obviously just a clever little joke about the Second Amendment. Nobody's going to hear that and say, hey, I think Hillary Clinton's Secret Service might have gotten rid of all their guns. This would be the good time to make my move. Nobody's saying that because nobody thought that. Nobody thought that. So CNN and the other people made a big deal about it when it obviously was a joke, and it's not even the kind of joke that would influence some people. It clearly wouldn't, because in fact it's the opposite of something that would influence people, because he's saying all of her Secret Service are heavily armed. That's the opposite of encouraging somebody to kill somebody. But when you add racial profiling to a situation, by adding this to somebody's quote, you're creating a situation where you're asking for a race riot. You're practically sparking one. So it is the most irresponsible bit of journalism, if you can call it that I've ever seen. It's just shocking. I mean, my mind is boggled. I can't believe that happened. And not only did it happen, but I'm sure it's going to be happening more today. By the way, after I tweeted that, I sampled CNN, and I didn't see them saying racial profiling after about an hour or so, because they must have just gotten their ass handed to them. I mean, I'm not the only person who mentioned it. In fact, most of the people who retweeted me made sure that they saw it. So, but will they correct that? Don't you think they should spend the entire day today just correcting that? I mean, how could they not? Because if you don't correct that, you are trying to spark some kind of a race war out of nothing. I mean, you could argue it's not out of nothing, but it would be unnecessarily alarming the public for something that literally he didn't say. Do you have your coffee? Yeah, no, and it's not as if, nobody's under the theory or nobody's under the illusion that Fox is totally unbiased. But at least on Fox, you've got guys like Hannity who are not trying to be unbiased, and he says it anytime you want to ask. He says he's not trying to be unbiased. He's opinion. So that feels a little more honest, slightly. And obviously, both Fox and CNN will put focus on things that seem a little bit more to their liking, right? And that changes your sense of the news too. So they're both biased in their own way. But bias is one thing. I can mentally sort out that one station is maybe biased one way, the other is biased the other way. And in fact, that's why I watch both. I literally switch back and forth all day because you wouldn't get any sense of the middle unless you saw the two extremes. But this isn't more of that. This is not more of that. This is intentionally doing something. This is intentionally doing something that's about as wrong as anything that you could ever do wrong. Hannity is a whiner. Yeah, I mean, you can't really defend either Fox or CNN from being, you can't defend their bias. But this is a whole different level. When you literally intentionally make up stuff and you do it right in front of the public. And you put it on the same page. I mean, putting that in quotes was just journalistic misconduct at the highest level I've ever seen. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it. Because here's the thing. Lots of times the news will get stuff wrong, but usually there's some rogue, writer who just, lied about some stuff, or maybe they got something just honestly wrong. But you can't do what they did yesterday unless a number of people consciously decided to mislead the public in a really serious way. I mean, almost criminally. I don't know enough about the law to know what it would be criminal or not. But if you're inserting a word into the news intentionally, and several people had to be involved because you heard at least the host talking about it, and at least the producer put it on the screen, and at the very least nobody's correcting it, right? So now a number of people at CNN have consciously made a decision to mislead the public in the most dangerous possible way by sparking some kind of a fucking race war. I mean, could this be worse? I don't think it could. I don't think this could be worse. And honestly, I asked myself, I've appeared on CNN a number of times, and I asked myself if I could go back there now. And I don't think I could. I really don't think I could. Yeah, of course they're doing it on purpose. So let's figure out what else you want to talk about. The Skittles. I think the Skittles thing, if you saw that, I guess it was Donald Trump Jr. was using an analogy. Now, if you've read my blog, you know what happens when people use analogies, right? All it does is make people fight about the analogy. You never make your point. All right, so let me say this again. Analogies are really good for explaining something to someone who's hearing it for the first time. So an analogy of let's say if you're trying to describe a zebra to somebody for the first time, you might say, well, it's kind of like a horse, but it's got these black and white stripes. So in that case, an analogy is very helpful if you've never heard of a zebra. But when people have heard of things, and they're already sort of deep into the details, the analogy does nothing but cause a fight. So when Don Jr. used an analogy of Skittles to immigration, and I guess the analogy was, I didn't see it directly, I just heard about it, was if you grab a handful of Skittles, you can't guarantee that there aren't any bad ones in the bunch, right? Not that there are bad Skittles, but Skittles of different colors, I guess. Now here's where he went wrong. And I can say this as someone who's gone wrong this very exact way a number of times, all right? He went wrong the same way I have gone wrong many times, and it took me years to figure out what the hell I was doing wrong. And it's that the analogy, first of all, always causes a fight. So anytime you use an analogy, you're just asking for it. But secondly, people will say you're comparing immigrants to, candy. And you're saying that they have a different color, so you're being racist because candy has different color in your analogy, and people have different colors, so you're just being racist. So people will get lost in the analogy, and they'll be thinking about the candy, and they'll be thinking, my God, immigration is life and death. How can you compare it to something so trivial as candy? So, Don Jr., beware of analogies. There's no way you can go right with an analogy. You failed as soon as you start. You can't win with an analogy. People will take them anywhere they want to take them. All right, now, what's the latest on Hillary's health? Does she have anything scheduled coming up? Is Bill O'Reilly biased? Bill O'Reilly is biased, I would say, to his own views, but he doesn't try to hide that. He says, I'm a conservative. He says he's pro-choice, not pro-choice, he's anti-abortion, I guess. I don't mind Bill O'Reilly so much because he at least attempts to be unbiased, and when he is biased, he does call himself out on that. So it's a slightly different thing. He's not trying to do news either, his opinion. So whether or not you like Bill O'Reilly is your own decision, but I think he does he does a better job with at least shining a light on his own bias than other people. All right, but nobody's unbiased now. He's pro-life. Yeah, pro-life. That's what I meant. She's doing Empathy, massive kill shot. Yeah, Jimmy Fallon did help Trump be a little cooler. Zimmerman trial, I'm not following that. Talk about affirmations, not today. That's in my book, by the way, and how to fail at almost everything and still win big. That's the best chapter in there. Well, the best discussion of that will be one chapter in that book. Everybody who has an ugly divorce has some rumors in there that may or may not be true. So I'll tell you the one thing I wouldn't believe is anything from an ex who's engaged in some kind of divorce battle. Hillary did a bad homeless joke. You're improving your life with my book. Good. I don't speak Russian. What is soon? Talk about the Reddit guy. Oh, you're talking about Hillary's IT guy who may have asked for some advice online. Well, I don't know that there's anything there, except people might think there's something there. Because my understanding is he got immunity, right? Now, I don't know if immunity covers this stuff, but it probably does. So, if a guy who got immunity has been discovered doing something that maybe he shouldn't have been doing, I don't know, he's not running for president. What's the difference? 5 months before the emails were handed over. Yeah, he was asking about changing things, but is there a line back to who asked him to change things? I don't think there's any direct line back to Clinton and anything he did, right? But it just doesn't matter what that guy did. If that guy didn't get his orders from someone else, it's just all irrelevant bullshit. Yeah, the IT guy he's got some troubles, but I haven't seen it connected back to Clinton. Has anybody seen it connected to her? If it's not connected back, it's just going to be another week of chatter about it that doesn't do anything. He didn't disclose the Reddit stuff, so the immunity deal is off. You might be more of a lawyer than I am. I can imagine that there's some scenario in which the immunity deal would be off, but I'd be amazed if his lawyers were so bad that they didn't create an immunity deal strong enough to handle this current situation. Wouldn't he have the worst lawyer ever if that were the case? I can see how you could do that wrong and lose your immunity, but did he have a bad lawyer? I doubt it. NBC poll, Clinton's up. What was she up? Is this a new poll? Let me check it. Poll. New poll. She regains momentum. Oh, look, it's NBC. What a coincidence. NBC, the poll which we least trust, right? Does anybody trust the NBC poll? Wiki has it from Mills to Jim. NBC poll is online. Meaning what? Meaning it's less reliable. And we're being held today. The likely voters. They do have that problem with the likely voters, don't they? How am I awake right now? You know, honestly, this whole CNN thing, adding the word racial to Trump's quote about profiling, I woke up thinking about it, and it was really kind of bothersome. I have to admit, I usually don't get bothered by the headlines. You know, there's nothing in the news that's going to bother me unless it's, you know, actually physically affecting me. But that just knocked my, you know, whatever grain of trust I had for humanity, I think was temporarily eliminated. Bug-eyed Hillary is a thing. So you saw Mike Cernovich's tweet, I think, showed a couple of photos of Hillary Clinton where she looked cross-eyed. Just like slightly cross-eyed. Her eyes were going in, you know, not cross-eyed, but her eyes were going in two different directions. Which, I don't know, is that cross-eyed? And I'd seen that myself. I'd seen it in other photos. And I was going to say something, but then I decided not to because I thought, oh, maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just this photo. But then when I saw the other photos, I thought, oh, okay, that's not a coincidence. I mean, I'm no doctor, but you know, can you find a bunch of photos of other people that look cross-eyed sometimes? I mean, you know, how many people have those photos out there? It's pretty common. No, I don't think it's just an illusion. So somebody said it's an illusion based on the fact that she was focusing up close. All right, here I am. I'm looking right at you. Am I cross-eyed? No. It doesn't really happen. The Hill published the same racial profiling. Yeah. I think that once CNN does it, it gives cover to everybody else to do it. Let's let me Google this. Let me just say plus Trump plus in quotes racial profiling. Let's see how many hits I get for Trump plus racial profiling, like as a quote. Oh, now the Hill is reporting that CNN falsely adds racial to Trump vetting comments. CNN's headline is Trump defends racial profiling. Look at this. All right. This is 1 hour ago. So this is after an entire evening of like 5,000 people. I think 5,000 people have tweeted then that this is fucking wrong, that they say Trump defends racial profiling. All right. So, but right below it, CNN falsely adds racial to Trump vetting comments. Then Rolling Stone, why Trump calls for racial profiling. How many hits do we get here? 476,000 hits. Yeah, they probably do put that at top, don't they? Yeah, I'm feeling pretty woke right now. The repeaters, not reporters, yeah. Did I read the interview with the Art of the Deal guy? No. That's it. The Art of the Deal guy is sort of like an ex, you know, an ex-wife, ex-husband. You can't really trust some types of sources. That doesn't mean he's lying. I'm just saying that you shouldn't put any credibility in a disgruntled ex-business partner who didn't get enough credit for his work. That doesn't mean everything he says isn't true. I'm just saying you can't put a lot of credibility in the source. Thoughts on Bush voting for Clinton? I wouldn't believe any of it, and it doesn't matter. You want me to wake up and do coffee early every day? Sam Harris, what about him? I was just watching him on on Joe Rogan's podcast. Will CNN misquote hurt or help? It'll hurt, because it doesn't look like anybody's calling him on it. I mean, The Hill did, but apparently, as of an hour ago, they don't mind saying it again. Can I sell ads? Not that I know of. Sam Harris thinks Trump is insane. Based on what? Endicott, New York. Hello, New York. Oh, Sam Harris is anti-Trump, is that? Well, I don't imagine he thinks he's being unbiased. I'm not fully Trump in public. I just blogged the other day that if you want to manage your risk, you've got two really interesting choices here. You've got Clinton, who offers more of the same. So if your life is going well now, that seems like a rational choice, right? To get more of the same if things are going well for you. Now, my life is going terrific. I mean, my life, honestly, my life couldn't get a lot better. My life is crazy good right now. So why would I want to take a big risk on changing things? Now, if you're underemployed, or you're worried about your retirement, or you're worried about ISIS, coming to get you, or immigration or anything else, your mileage might vary. So you might need more of a change than I do. So it makes sense to take a bigger risk if things aren't working out for you. So Trump represents what I call an entrepreneur's risk. There's almost certainly more upside potential with Trump, but there's also more uncertainty. So you might have more downside potential. I don't buy anybody who thinks he's going to blow up the world with nuclear bombs or something. That is all just crazy shit. There isn't the slightest chance that anybody that we elect president is going to have that instinct, or that they would get away with it, because it's not like they're the only one who gets to decide the nukes, right? I think it's a 3-point approval, if I'm not wrong. I think there's the Secretary of Defense has to sign off on it, and then also I think there's one other person with a key or something, maybe a military person. So I think who you vote for, who you support for president, has to do with what your personal situation is and your personal risk profile. If you want to have an entrepreneurial kind of a situation with both the upside and the downside potential, Trump makes sense. And by the way, in the long run, the country's dead unless you have a few Trumps in your history, because every once in a while you've got to cannibalize your own system. You've got to just eat it and then reinvent it. If you don't, you're just going to trend down forever. Right? So it's the same thing Apple does when they cannibalize their iPods by creating the iPhone, or every time they create a new product, it makes the old product worthless. The country has to do that once in a while too, and we don't get that many opportunities. So Trump is sort of a rare opportunity to break the system, just blow it up. And who knows if he can even do that, but that's what he's offering anyway. So if you think things are heading in the wrong direction, either quickly or we're in some kind of slow, perpetual decline, then you would want to take on more risk. Because ultimately the only way you can get out of the slow decline is by some step function, shake up the system, break everything and fix it sort of a way. Trump is offering that. But like I say, people like me, my life is about as good as you can get. And I don't see anything that's going to change that anytime soon. So for me, a Clinton presidency, as long as everything was sort of the same, would be about the right risk profile. But for you people, if you need a better job, you need more of a job, your kids need to be educated, you need some health care, if you need any of that stuff, you could assume that the next 4 years will look a lot like now. And if that's not good for you, then you want to take on a higher risk profile maybe. And that might mean a Trump vote. Who said, "Oh yeah, ha, Scott"? You do not read my blog, apparently. Because those, yeah, you people. What's the future of the GOP? Well, I think the GOP is going to be mostly a Trump party if he does well. If he doesn't do well, then it will try to revert back to its prior form. But if it does well, it just becomes the Trump party after that. Obama's cure cancer, good idea. I say it's a good idea if they can do it. I might be willing to accept some risk for other people. That almost made sense, but it didn't. Are you John Adams' son? I may be related to the presidents, John Adams and John Quincy Adams, but not as a descendant. So I'm not a direct descendant. But my Adams line traces back to England, as does theirs. So there's a good chance we have some kind of common relatives there. Midtown, hey. Twitter shadow banned your CNN tweet. No, they didn't. I don't think they did. Got 5,000 retweets. It's the most retweeted thing I've ever done. I think all this shadow banning stuff is bullshit. I don't think it's really happening. I think people just think it's happening. Yeah, Adams is a common name, but they probably all go back to some common root, I would bet. Nobody cares who Bush 41 is voting for. Write about CNN in your blog? Yeah, I might, but I was hoping it would be sort of over by now. The longest I've gone without masturbating. 5 days. Why can't Hillary steal Trump's policies about tough vetting? Well, it's kind of, am I pro men going their own way? Yeah, if they're not me. You can see your own tweets not, yeah. Would Godzilla pull this? I think Godzilla's on book tour now. Is the Hillary green screen stuff just confirmation bias? Yes, it is. Debates. Will they help Hillary? Well, my CNN tweet isn't in my timeline. That is not true. Let me go look at my timeline. Do you mean only when you look at it? Or would it not be there if I look at it? Let's see. I see me. Holy shit. Is that true? Is it really not there? So I'm looking to see if my own tweet has been shadow banned. It's gone. Wow. Look at it in private browsing. What's that mean? It's in the replies for some reason. Oh, is it because it's in tweets and replies? Let's see. It does seem to be gone. Oh, no, there it is. It's in tweets and supply. So, because you started it with a username. Oh, okay. All right, so it's there. Can't see it on mobile. Yeah, it's because it's a retweet. So that's what I thought. I thought this whole shadow banning thing is just people confused about where it's supposed to be. Situation normal. Exactly. I didn't hear that about 22-year-old student. Retweet it to see it on your profile. Is that a real thing? Should I retweet myself? Alright, I just retweeted myself. I probably broke some rule, didn't I? I'm 59. Shadow bans means I can see it and others can't. I'm not going to really... Oh, pin the tweet. Check Drudge now. Okay. Let's see what Drudge says. Drudge report. There we go. And Drudge says... Hillary's bush. Is that why I'm looking at it? Hillary's health sends pesos plunging. Am I rich enough for a three-way? I've never had a three-way. True story. I can't say I've had a lot of opportunity, but it's never appealed to me as a goal. I tried to-do lists, making lists of what to do, but here's the problem. My own normal to-do list would have 35 to 50 items on it, and I would spend my whole day just sort of looking at the list. So I take the Mark Andreessen method now. I try to focus more on what I got done than what I need to do, and I wait until people yell at me before I do anything, because if people aren't willing to yell at you for not doing it, it probably wasn't worth doing in the first place. That's something I learned from my philosophy teacher in college. He said he takes everything that comes into his inbox and he just leaves it there for 2 weeks, because in 2 weeks, if it wasn't important, it probably was never important. And if somebody really, really needs it in 2 weeks, they'll let him know. So he just didn't do any to-do lists, and he didn't do anything that was in his inbox. He just left it there, and it worked fine. I started doing that basically with email. Now my practice with email is I look at it whenever I feel like it. Sometimes not for a few days, and I don't even think about it when I don't look at it. And every time I go back to look at it, there are all these people who are really mad. I missed a deadline. They should have. The requests I missed, things I should have answered, things that are past due. And I've been doing this for years, and none of it has ever really mattered, which is weird. It always seemed important when I was doing it, but as soon as I just started ignoring my email half the time and just not answering a lot of it, no matter how important it was. It's from lawyers, insurance, my accountant, and I ignore half of it. But the important stuff comes back. They text you, they call you, they take care of it themselves. So it turns out that being irresponsible is a really good process. Once you reach a certain level of busyness, your best way to get through the day is to be as irresponsible as you can and not answer people's questions, because otherwise it's all you would do. I wouldn't do anything except that. Yeah, nothing's important as well you're thinking about it. Yeah. Our brains process whatever we're thinking about as being the important thing. WinHub and Waze. No, Waze is all about navigation, and we're not about navigation. Talk about the debates. Well, I think all you need to know about the debates is that if Clinton does well, everybody will say, well, we expected that. She knew all of her facts. If Trump knows just a few facts and does a little bit better, he's going to look like he exceeded expectations. Yeah, WinHub is the name of the app, and there's a cloud component which is up and running right now. You can go play with it, but we're still working out some bugs, so it's still in beta. Um, was Persuasion the Secret Persuasion book you got to preview? Yes, it was. NPR agreed with what? Countries already too tilted to reverse the electoral map? Maybe. I think I would agree with Trump that this might be the last time a Republican has a really good shot at being president. Polls still say Clinton leads in a four-way matchup. Yeah, it's all about the trend and the direction at this point. Don Jr. just retweeted the Hills article. Are you a burner? I'm not sure what a burner is. If Clinton coughs or sounds sick of the debate, that would be bad. Yeah, some of my books are on Audible, not the cartoon books. A 5 and latest. Is the NBC poll the one we can most ignore? Is that the one that's been most wrong from beginning to end? I don't think NBC is a credible player anymore, are they? 6 and latest two-way matchup. Oversampled Dems, LA Times. They oversample, yeah. It's only registered voters. What's wrong with that? Most of them would be registered by now. There can't be a ton of registered voters. Or you mean they're ignoring likely voters? Yeah, so the Skittles thing I talked about earlier, anytime you try to communicate with an analogy, you're just asking for trouble. Analogies never really work. They just give people reasons to hate you. We've got friends and family testing WinHub, and we've widened it to some other folks as well. But the app is up and running. That's a real product. You can download that right now, and you're going to like it. Yeah. The Skittles analogy was used a lot in primary. I never heard it. How do I avoid writer's block? I just don't get it. I just don't have writer's block, so I don't know the answer to that. I'll talk about WinHub a little bit later, not today. Does Trump have more plays up his sleeve, or is he riding the trend? I think that will depend where the polls are in 2 weeks. If he's smart, he's riding the trend for now. And so here's a little thing that's happening. We'll see if you agree with this. It seems to me that Trump's strategy is that he'll try to talk about an important issue, let's say immigration, but he'll do it in a way that he knows his words can be criticized. So he's turned Clinton into a word thinker. In other words, Trump says something meaningful about policy, like we should vet harder or we should do this. And I realize there's no details, but he's still talking about policy. He's talking about we should try harder on this policy or do less of this or more of that. So yeah, no details, but it's policy. Clinton, on the other hand, is forced to respond not with policy, but rather to criticize the words he chose to talk about policy. So he's turned her, because she can't seem to resist, because her strongest play is to make Trump look, dangerous and unstable, and to say his temperament is bad. So he's forcing her to talk about not anything involved with policy. He's forcing her to be a word thinker. Now, word thinker is someone who just says, here's a definition, and you are either in it or you're not. You're a liberal or you're not. You're a conservative or you're not. You're a Nazi or you're not. You're a reactionary or you're not. And that's not really thinking. It's not reason. It's not management. It's not leadership. It's not fucking anything. So he's basically, Trump has turned, by his choice of wording, which he knows is provocative, he does it that way intentionally, he's become the only one who talks about anything that's important. And he's turned Clinton into someone who always talks about something unimportant, which is the words you chose to say your fucking thing. It's the least important thing. And by the way, I predicted the other day that, or observed, not predicted, I'd observed that she looked like her IQ was degraded, probably because of her illness or maybe meds or both. But you're really seeing that now, right? I think I said that even before she did her zombie Hillary thing. I was saying that her frog thinker sounds like me. Coffee with Ivanka Trump. Coincidence? Yeah, I'll do live commentary on the debates. I will probably have a co-host for that, so I'll be live on Periscope during the first debate anyway. Maybe the other ones. We'll see how the first one goes. But I will be there with my co-host. You probably know who that is. Yes, it will be my neighbor. Yes, my neighbor Christina will co-host. Now, when I say co-host, I don't know if she's going to be on camera or not. That just depends if she wants to. Please, not your neighbor. I'm pretty sure you would rather see her on there instead of watching me the whole time. The other thing I haven't figured out, maybe somebody knows if this would work. Can I do multiple devices like my iPad, my phone, and my other iPad, and have multiple camera angles for my one Periscope? I can do that, can I? You're through with your neighbor, with my neighbor? She's too distracting. It has to be in multiple accounts. Okay. Yeah, I guess it would have to be in multiple accounts. You're right. Well, she could always do her Periscope, and I could do mine. Then you'd have two choices. Well, the viewer would have to leave the Periscope and then go to another active Periscope to see the other view of the same situation. Somebody overslept. One on a device, one on the computer, yeah. That was Trump. Yes, Christina is very persuasive. All right, I'm going to go do some work. It's an increasingly Scott Adams-based reality. Well, what if Christina works the camera? We'll think about that. But she will be co-hosting with me, so you have that to look forward to. All right, I'm going to take off. All of you, thanks for watching this early in the morning. While many of you were sleeping, I was up, periscoping, trying to make the world a better place. Pretty soon I'm going to make my own ASMR. Who doesn't want more Christina? That's crazy. All right. I'll see you guys later. Fox and Friends called out CNN. There we go. Did they call them out for adding the word racial? Yeah, probably. All right. Bye bye.